Hello everyone and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm Notorious Dub and today I'm going to be going over one of the biggest debates in Valorant right now. What's better, the Stinger or the Spectre? Now there are still a ton of diehard Stinger fans, but we saw the Stinger recently go from being used in about 70% of rounds in pro play down to only being used in a couple of rounds per game. But the question remains, is this actually how the meta belongs, or is this just a huge overcorrection for the Stinger nerfs that got everyone to swap off of the weapon before they actually got used to it? Well, in this video we're going to be doing a deep dive into the stat breakdown of the Spectre and the Stinger, the strengths and weaknesses and niche uses to figure out once and for all which weapon is the force round king, the Stinger or the Spectre. But as always, before we get into the meat of the video, we have to start with our question of the day. And today I want to ask, how do you guys feel about the Marshal in the meta right now? Now in my eyes, it's 200 credits more than a Sheriff, but with that 101 body damage, it is a much more forgiving version of the Sheriff, making it, in my opinion, one of the most slept on eco round weapons in the entire game. Because while it is a bit worse at closer ranges, it is way easier to hit headshots at the long range, and with the increased scope and movement speed and the insane no scope accuracy, I think the gun is going to slowly creep back into the eco round and force buy meta, with a high skill cap, high reward playstyle. And we're seeing a ton of designated oppers picking up the Marshal on those rounds where they can't afford one and doing work. But I'm sure a ton of you guys absolutely disagree with me, which is exactly why I want to hear from you. So let me know in the comments down below how you feel about the Marshal in today's Valorant meta. Alright, so what are the obvious differences between the Stinger and the Spectre, and what changed to force this shift? So first things first, let's break down the damage stats for each weapon. The Stinger boasts a 16 round per second fire rate with damage tiers that are 67 to the head, 27 to the body, and 23 to the legs at ranges under 20 meters. And beyond 20 meters, the damage drops to 63 to the head, 25 to the body, and 21 to the legs. Whereas the Spectre shoots 13.3 rounds per second and stands respectively at 78 damage to the head, 26 to the body, and 22 to the legs under 20 meters. And then beyond that 20 meter threshold, we see the drop to 66 to the head, 22 to the body, and 19 to the legs. But when you look at the stat blocks of both of these weapons, there are really only two things you need to focus on that make a huge difference. The Spectre, under 20 meters, does 78 damage to the head, giving it the edge of 2 shots to the head, allowing you to kill enemies at close range, whereas the Stinger still takes 3 headshots, making the Spectre far superior if you're able to hit those close range headshots consistently. And the other stat block that matters is the fact that the Stinger's body damage numbers stay above 25, and since your HP is usually going to be either 100, 125, or 150, the Stinger's damage per bullet is perfectly efficient, whereas the Spectre's damage is 22 beyond 20 meters, making it take 1 extra bullet to kill, and it also has a 17% lower fire rate, which all added up equals up to a pretty big time to kill ratio. The Stinger's time against fully armored targets to kill below 20 meters is 0.31 seconds, if you hit all of your shots obviously. And the beyond 20 meters it's the exact same because the 27 to 25 damage drop off doesn't affect the amount of bullets it actually takes to kill an enemy, so the time to kill remains the same. The Spectre has a completely different story though. Below 20 meters, the Stinger has a 0.38 second time to kill, making it about 0.07 seconds slower. But beyond 20 meters, that time to kill skyrockets to 0.45, which means it takes almost a full half a second to kill enemies from range, which ends up being a 31% slower time to kill than the Stinger. And that seems like an insanely long time, because it is, but that trade-off in damage is well made up for in accuracy, which is arguably way more important. So the takeaway from these pure damage stats is that when accuracy isn't going to be an issue, like for an A rush on Icebox, an A rush on Haven, anytime on Split, or even defending on Bind, the Stinger is going to be overall a much more powerful weapon because of the sheer time to kill and damage output stats. But when you're not sure what fights you're going to be getting into, or on maps where long range accuracy is important, the Spectre is a must have because the Stinger most of the time just honestly can't get the job done. But accuracy is a much different, and in this case, a way more important topic. And there are some specifics you need to know to use these weapons to their full potential. But remember, if you're serious about improving, then go to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you how to win more gunfights, master your agent, and so much more. It's also backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. So come join over 500,000 satisfied members of SkillCapped, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. Now with the Stinger on full auto, the Stinger's recoil now climbs very aggressively after the 3rd bullet, and the horizontal accuracy becomes inconsistent on a 3rd bullet instead of the 4th. Also, the max bullet spread is achieved at the 4th shot instead of the 6th. And all these numbers aside, and you add everything up, the Stinger is now impossible to control past 20 meters. Just take a look at these spray patterns. As you can see, the first 3 to 4 bullets can be hit relatively easily, but not super consistently. But every bullet after that is way different than the one before it, which means the Stinger is great for pumping out damage and getting hits. But if you're past that 15-meter threshold, it's terrible for actually finishing off kills, which means you could be stuck in that spot where you're getting tons of damage down, but you're not actually getting kills on anyone. But take a look at the Spectre spray pattern. The Spectre spray pattern is honestly exactly like the Phantom and the Vandal, but with a bit more randomness on the top end. The Spectre gives you about 10 bullets of controllable recoil where you're dragging your mouse straight down and being relatively accurate. So even though you have to hit an extra bullet than the Stinger, and it takes a lot longer, you do have the ability to be accurate and very consistent with the weapon. And the time to kill kind of doesn't matter if you're not hitting those bullets anyway. But also the aiming down sight aspects of the weapon are very important. And the only chance the Stinger has at long ranges is with the 4-round burst from aiming down sights that it actually has. And previously this was actually super strong, be able to 2-burst people with Vandals at long ranges, but this was actually nerfed as well, making it far less accurate and controllable after your first burst. And you actually have to wait almost a half a second before that recovery time resets and you're accurate again. Once again, this reinforces the fact that the Stinger can pump out a ton of damage on the front end, but struggles being able to finish enemies off with consecutive bursts on the back end. The Spectre's aim down sight, on the other hand, tells quite a different story, as it's actually the main mode of shooting at over 20 meters from people who are proficient with the weapon. Whenever you're aiming down sights, the crosshair and the bullet are now connected. Instead of the bullet traveling away from the crosshair in the recoil pattern, you just bring your crosshair back to the target. Not to mention the speed of fire slows down as well, and that makes controlling your spray while aiming down sights with the Spectre very easy. And although it does take over half a second to kill people while you're aiming down sights, it's consistent, easy to pump out damage. But keep in mind, there are other factors to take into consideration when you take in the stats of these weapons that you have to take a look at to make a final decision on what your eco round weapon should be. First of all, the Spectre actually has a 30-round clip where the Stinger has a 20-round clip, and because the Stinger is also less accurate across the board, you're going to be wasting more bullets than the Spectre as well. So while the time to kill is way lower, the odds of actually getting more kills past that, or even being able to finish off that first kill, is way lower with the Stinger. But even more obscure and way more important is the playstyle that the weapons face, and the viability of those playstyles in general rounds. So we know the Stinger is worse at range, and the Spectre is very accurate with range, which means the Spectre is a direct counter to the Stinger and should have an edge in controlled scenarios against a Stinger. But with the Stinger being a close range weapon, you're forced to get close in the enemy's face, closer than 15 meters, and at that range you're in danger of being one-shot range with the Bucky and the Judge, both of which are absolutely OP and have a huge come up in the meta right now. Which means the difference between the popularity of the Stinger and the Spectre could just be because the Stinger has no real ability to deal with shotguns because it has to pump out damage, whereas the shotguns are going to one-shot and they have the same effective range. But the Spectre can make the shotgun users absolutely useless. And one final stat that you have to look at before we go into when you should be using each weapon is the win percentage in rounds where each weapon is used. The Stinger, the previous go-to eco-round weapon, now sits at a 41.7% win rate in rounds where the Stinger was purchased. But for teams that bought the Spectre, on average they won their round 53.8% of the time. Now these numbers can be a bit skewed because the Spectre has been used more of a force buy weapon that you would use after you win round 1, whereas the Stinger is more of an eco-round weapon at this point that you buy just when you want a chance to win while saving for the next round. But even then, the numbers don't lie. A 12% win rate difference is too much to justify. But that doesn't mean any weapon is universally better than the other, and they each have their specific uses. Starting with the Stinger, this weapon is an absolute damage cannon that kills enemies in times that are just above the average human reaction time, meaning if enemies even manage to react, they usually won't be able to do anything about it if you're managing to hit your shots. So where can you take advantage of this? On maps like Split, the Stinger is still a king because you can lock down areas of the map like Be Heaven and be able to pump out damage on anyone trying to take the area. But even then, why would you choose this over a Bucky or a Judge? Well, because the Stinger is better at retaking on both bomb sites than a Bucky or a Judge would be, so you maintain that close range kill pressure, but you also gain a little bit of versatility whenever you have to rotate and retake a site, which happens far too often on this map. You can also play areas like hookah or showers on bind with the Stinger because it's incredible for locking down the areas, but once again provides the ability to be a little versatile by peeking out of your location and helping out when the enemies are taking a site. So the weapon allows you to lock down those tight areas that you choose with much more kill pressure than a Spectre would, but also allows you to push through and flank or help out with the bomb sites with much more versatility than a Judge or Bucky would. Other than these specific areas, you want to pick up a Stinger when the money is right and you have a specific playground in mind that you want to be able to hold, where you can keep control of the distance of fights and keep it within 10 meters. But keep in mind, the Stinger on Icebox is really just not viable unless you're attacking and rushing A to overwhelm the enemies with close range run and gun, which is honestly, whenever you're attacking with Stingers, what you should be doing on any map. But then we have the Spectre Spectre, and here you should honestly view the Spectre as a weaker version of a Phantom, because that's essentially what it is. But you do gain that little bit of extra running gun power from where they nerfed the Phantom's running gun, but they didn't nerf the SMGs. So keep in mind, you're not going to want to be running into areas like hookah, showers, or garage on Haven when the enemy team is on a save route, because a stinger or a shotgun at that range can ruin your entire day, because you're often not going to be able to finish them off in the time that it takes for them to kill you because of the high time to kill that the Spectre boasts. But in general, you really want to pay attention to the enemy's money whenever you're using the Spectre. If the enemy is on a full buy, then you have to treat your Spectre like a run and gun version of the Phantom, play those close angles, abuse the moving and shooting, and outmaneuver those Phantoms and Vandals, because the long range time to kill really just doesn't cut it in most scenarios against rifles. But if the enemy team can't full buy rifles, treat your Spectre like the best long range weapon the game has ever seen. Play areas like back plat on Seaside Haven, Heaven on A side Bind, and Rafters A or mid on Icebox to abuse those long range accuracies that you're going to have over classics, stingers, and shotguns. But overall, if you're not sure what weapon you should get and you don't have a clear picture in your mind of how the round could play out, and also you don't have enough to buy a standard rifle, then the Spectre should honestly be the go-to. Because although it does get outdamaged by the stinger and shotguns at close range, and outranged and outdamaged by rifles at the longer ranges, it does give you the ability to do everything good enough. And that versatility is what puts the Spectre far above the stinger in what most people's eyes are right now. And it's also why we're deeming the Spectre the king of eco rounds. But only for the time being. We will see a small resurgence in the Stinger's use when teams get used to the niche uses that they can have for it, and then when we finally get a Bucky and a Judge nerf, you best believe the Stinger is going to be coming back with a vengeance. And remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. And honestly, the most impressive thing about Valorant to me right now is how fast the meta is shifting currently. What do you think about all of the shifting of the weapon meta in Valorant right now? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn those notification bells on, because we here at SkillCapped have a ton more comprehensive premium guides coming your way that you're going to want to stay up to date with so you can stay ahead of the pack. As always, I do want to thank you for spending this little bit of your day with us, and I'm Notorious Dub, signing off.